Hey folks, welcome. Dave Brandon here. Welcome to Ask a Lawyer Live. Today we're going to be talking about when can social media posts get you fired from your job. That is the topic for today, and we'll go through it. As always, I'll be here taking questions. So if you have something that's not related to this topic, just put it in the comments, and I'll get to it. All right, let's take a look at this. This is an interesting subject. It's becoming more and more relevant. Employers pay close attention to what their employees say online because social media can directly they're concerned about social media harming the reputation of the employer. And a post that goes viral can damage customers' trust in the company and even with fellow employees. Now, examples of when employers are concerned is when there are posts from an employee that conflict with company values, if the employee is involved in either harassment or bullying online, that could involve disclosing confidential employment-related information. Even if you post outside of work hours, employers can still argue that your actions reflect on them. So let's look about the legal grounds here. So the legal grounds for firing someone over a social media post, there are two ways it can happen. One is without cause or with cause. That means that your online activity is so serious that that it destroys the trust relationship and the employer can fire you for cause. This means they don't have to pay you severance and can immediately fire you for that reason. Things that will generally rise to this level will have to be something about racist or harassment content in your post, leaking sensitive company information, or openly attacking the employer. These are the kind of things that could rise to the level of the employer being able to fire you for a cause. Now, what's more common is the employer will fire you without cause. That means they must provide reasonable notice and severance pay or severance pay. And even if they point to a post that was the reason for wanting to get rid of you, they still, if they're firing you without cause, they still have to provide you with what's generally regarded as termination pay and severance pay. Now, like with all things, the context does matter. Not all posts are equal, and the impact of the post depends on the context. For example, things that will be considered is whether the post was public or private. Did you mention the employer by name is another thing? Or is the employer, are you somehow clearly identified with the employer, like having the employer's information in your anywhere in your profile or wearing a company shirt or something like that? Another things for the context will be whether coworkers or clients saw the post. Another thing that will be taken into account is your own excuse me, your own work history and whether you've had any of these issues in the past or if this is the first time you've done anything. Tribunals and courts, when thinking about dealing with a situation like this or thinking about what they're going to do, they will look at whether your conduct was truly incompatible with your employment. So a questionable post may justify a firing in one industry or type of employment, and the same conduct would not matter in another. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. It will really matter sometimes the industry you're in and whether what you're saying has any effect on the employer. Now, people do have rights. Not as in Canada, our rights to free speech are not as strong, obviously, as in the United States, has the strongest free speech protections in the world. But Canada does have protections for speech. It's called freedom of expression under the Canadian Charter of Human Rights. And it does apply to the Charter. But the Charter of Human Rights does apply to the government impacting your speech. It does not apply to private employers. So the thing is you are free to you have freedom of expression to say what you want, but the employer is also free to fire you for that expression. So that is something to keep in mind. They don't have to tolerate, you have the right to say the speech, but you don't have the right to keep the job if it does impact the employer. Now, doesn't mean that the employers can get away with anything, and sometimes employers will go too far, or they will claim that the speech that in question or the post in question harms their business when it really doesn't. Some employers may just be using this as an excuse to get rid of you, and there are other exceptions. There would be ways possibly that you could say that your speech was protected under human rights laws that do apply to the employer. That's a trickier one. So that would be freedom of religion, freedom from disability discrimination. So there are corner cases where you might be able to fit your situation into being protected under the human rights. That's going to be difficult in most cases, but it is a possibility. Now, finally, if you're unionized, I don't really deal with a lot of unionized situations. I don't deal with any really. But in unionized situations, there's an added layer of complexity around the collective agreement for your employment. So that may have its own details and procedures around speech and how it's handled in the workplace. So in terms of protecting yourself, it's pretty much common sense. Just think carefully about posting, especially if you know your employer is sensitive to any type of online criticism. So even if you are in private groups, this doesn't necessarily have to be like public on Twitter or Facebook or something. Even in private groups within online groups, like in a Discord or in a Facebook group, dare I say on Reddit, probably most of you are probably too old to be on Reddit, but Even in private groups or semi-private groups, it can still harm the employer's reputation if this is online and accessible. So just keep that in mind. Some employers will have social media policies, so you should review them if they have them and see what is allowed and what is not allowed. It's easier for you to save your employment if your actions follow the recommendations in your employer's policy. That will save you. That means they might want to adjust their policy, but they wouldn't be able to fire you for violating the policy. And if you're disciplined or fired because of a social media post, don't panic. Get legal advice. You may very well be entitled to severance pay and compensation depending on the circumstances. So you would want to preserve the posts in question and the communications from the employer about them, and give that to a lawyer to review to see what your rights are. So in a nutshell, yes, you can be fired for what you post on social media, but whether it's legal without consequences for your employer depends on the circumstances. In many cases, you are still entitled to severance pay, termination pay, or other protections. The bottom line is just be careful online, and or you could find yourself facing discipline or termination from employment. Okay, let's move on. And please let me know if you have any questions. Ooh, I'm in a bit of a bad hair day here. I'll give it a while here for people to post questions if you have them. I'll take a look. We always take a peek at the forum, online forum, see if there's any questions there we can answer together. I had good help yesterday from people on answering questions. So there is one question online here that we can go to. Let me just share my screen. So this person had a question about the disability tax credit renewal. This person is asking, my disability tax credit expires in 2025. How do I go about reapplying? Originally, I hired True North to do this, so I'm not sure if I should contact them again. So Caro, who is a very frequent poster on here, says, if your condition is the same, just copy the same information into the T2201. That is the application form. You can do it on my CRA online and give the code to your doctor to fill out the doctor portion, or if it's a complicated disability, you can fill out the paper form and take it to your doctor to complete with you. Yeah, this is great advice from Caro. They are dealing with a lot of volume of new applications because of the disability, the Canada Disability Benefit. So I would take care of it promptly if you can. Yes. So what Caro is saying is correct. You can apply online. There are codes you can give to your doctor, and doctors can log in to Service Canada and go in and fill out things online. Or if the doctor is not savvy or want to deal with it that way, just give the doctor the paper form to fill out. Either one, you could try to find what your doctor would prefer and go about it that way. Good advice, Caro. I'm going to put a big heart on that. Okay, let's go back and see if there's anything else here. Looks like the same question. When should I reapply for disability tax credit? Same kind of thing. People are saying as soon as you can. Okay, I answered that one yesterday. Someone was concerned about surveillance, and I said they're probably not surveilling you as much as you think they are, but you never can know for sure. Yeah, so this is not really anything. not sure if you can hear the dogs. I have dogs in my house here where I shoot these videos down in my basement office, so the dogs are upstairs. There's no one else home. So if you know Pomeranian dogs, any little shadow noise, they're on it. No one's sneaking. I don't have any concerns of anyone sneaking up on in my house. All right, let me take a peek. I assume everyone, I'm not sure if people watching can comment or not, but I assume things are going smoothly with the Canada Disability Benefit for those of you who already had were already approved for the disability tax credit. I'm just trying to see online here. It was a long wait, but it seems like the program is going now. So people should be receiving their payments. Yeah, I'm just looking online here to see if there's anything new. Nope, nothing new. All righty. Well, we're going to call it, maybe we'll just call it a quick day for today if no one has any questions, which is completely fine. I have some people coming over this evening. They're going to be shooting some YouTube videos in my basement so I can get ready for them. I'll see you guys back here next week. I will be back on Monday with another episode. Until then, if you have questions, you can always reach out to our support team or just submit a question through our website. I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you back here next week. Take care.